Hey guys, it's Michael, and today I would like to show you a little bit of Quantum Break and share my first impressions with you. Let's do a nice backstory first, shall we? Building a machine that would make it possible to travel in time is a dream that many scientists would like to come true, and not only the crazy ones. Time traveling is considered quite seriously on a theoretical level, but most probably it will never be brought to life. Stephen Hawking came to a simple conclusion: if someone, even in a distant future, could tame time travels, we would already have many guests from the future now. Putting the machine aside, creating a good story involving time traveling is equally difficult. A good story that is able to go unharmed through every time paradox is a rarity. However, Remedy, the creators of first two Max Payne games and the thriller Alan Wake, wanted to do just that. Keeping in mind that the stories in their previous games were quite good and a little bit crazy, there is hope that the same will apply to Quantum Break. And the story is actually quite crazy, but is it any good? Well, it is for now, but it's hard to say anything for certain without completing the whole game. Either way, what we got here is a shooter game, but keeping in mind that it is a shooter made by Remedy, it does have something unique. In Max Payne, it was the bullet time feature, in Alan Wake it was the flashlight of doom, and in Quantum Break these are bubbles. Time bubbles, actually. We get the powers because of an unlucky, or maybe actually lucky accident, and these powers are key to the gameplay, mostly in terms of shooting. When a firefight begins, our hero not only has a gun at his disposal, but also a certain number of abilities. The first one is the bubble that I mentioned. The bubble stops time and everything in it. This means that our course of action is to use that bubble on an enemy and then shoot the hell out of it. Once the bubble bursts, time starts to flow again and the enemy finds himself with a half a kilo of lead in his body. The other ability that we have is a protection shield, but I guess that no explanation is required here. The third one makes it possible to slide through time from one place to another. After doing such a jump, time slows down a bit and the enemies are launched in the air. The last ability is pretty useful in locating enemies and interactive elements within a certain location. You know, Sixth Sense kind of a thingy. And for now, that's all the abilities that I was able to check out. Using all the time abilities is actually quite fun. Remedy got us used to playing their games with top-notch shooting mechanics, and it's no different here. You can feel the power of the weapon, you can feel the recoil, and you definitely don't feel like shooting with a plastic gun. Everything regarding that matter is pretty solid, but it's not really groundbreaking. And I wouldn't say that it's difficult either. When you'll finally get a hang of using the powers, you won't have any problems with clearing the areas of enemies. Sometimes I got a feeling that the creators actually want to boost up the difficulty level by having more enemies than necessary attacking me, but that might only be a misleading impression. Either way, in terms of the shooting mechanics and playing with time abilities, Quantum Break is doing well. How's the story in all of this though? To be honest, it was actually the story that had me really intrigued after the initial announcements. My first impressions regarding the plot are, well, positive. Even though our main hero seems to be a really common character, all the side characters, and especially our nemesis, they are pretty interesting. A substantial part of the story is told by the collectibles that we find, and as it usually is with Remedy, they are really well written or performed if we find an audio log. However, that's not all of it. Quantum Break introduces choices that will strongly influence the following story. We immediately learn of short-term consequences, which actually makes sense keeping in mind that the characters play with time and they can foresee what will happen next. That's not all though. Remedy's game is yet another attempt at conjoining the game with the series. Previously, there were attempts to do something similar with an online shooter called Defiance, but in the end, it wasn't that good. Quantum Break has a slightly different approach though. In this case, once you finish a certain chapter in the story, you see a 20 minutes long episode of a series. The story of the series is influenced by the choices made in the game. Depending on what we choose to do, certain scenes will be different. And is the series worth watching? In short, yes. You can see that the series had a pretty strict budget, but the way it was shot shows quality. For now, I was only able to see one episode, so it's hard to tell what will come next, but I get the impression that the series focuses more on side characters that, in the game, are somewhere in the background. I really hope that it will stay that way, because thanks to this, the story feels much more complete. For now, I can't really say if it's possible to play the game without watching the series. I get the impression that you can do it, but lots of small things like what motivates certain characters to do what they do might be lost to you if you don't watch the episodes. Let's talk about some technical stuff as well. The Quantum Break that you can see now is an Xbox One version of the game. It looks nice, but you can't really say that it's groundbreaking. The colors are pretty toned down, but I guess you could call it the art style suiting the story being told. However, it also works well as a means of covering all the graphical imperfections. You can also forget about getting 60 frames per second. The game actually works in 30. Why? You know these explanations already. We want you to have a movie-like experience. Well, whatever. An enormous highlight is the audio side of the game, especially the voice acting. It's really nice to listen to all the dialogues in the game. And this actually sums up my first impressions of Quantum Break. The game is quite nice, it's pleasant to play, and the story, at least for now, is interesting. I can't say a bad thing about the shooting mechanics as well, but you shouldn't prepare yourself for any kind of revolution. At first, the game was supposed to be an Xbox One exclusive, but as we know now, it will also be out on PC. And that's what I'm actually really curious about, because the PC version of Quantum Break might look really stunning. Thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for more on our channel.